Good evening. I'll call to order this concurrent meeting of School Administrative Unit Number 12, School Board in the Londonderry School District. Today, October the 21st, 2008, 7 p.m. If you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Mr. Zakili, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first order of business this evening is a public hearing on the proposed redistricting of certain students in certain sections of town. And Nate, do we need a motion to open the public hearing? We don't have them that often, so.
Okay, move to open public hearing.
I have a motion to open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. So Nate, if you'd start us off, please, with your presentation.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. It's greatly appreciated. And what we'd like to do is go through a brief presentation and then open it up to any questions, comments, concerns that people have. As soon as Peter gets that, so it's vertical as opposed to horizontal. There we go.
We could just turn the screen.
Okay, everybody just lean to the right. Let's read it that way. It's much better, Pete.
One more. Okay. Way to go, Pete. What we started to do actually this summer, we began to look at room utilization, and the purpose was to examine our current utilization of instructional space based on enrollment projections and program needs for both regular and special ed students. And secondly was to continue to implement the concept of utilizing district-wide elementary room stock as opposed to over-construction at any particular school site. When we initially did the renovation work at North School, one of the options we looked at was putting on a second floor. We opted not to do that, partly because of cost. The other part was we took a look at the number of classrooms that we had at Matthew Thornton and the number of classrooms that we had at South School. And we took a look at what our enrollment projections were, and we felt that based on what our enrollment projections would be for the next 10 years, 15 years or so, it wasn't necessary to overbuild at one school site. So basically at North School, we got rid of the portables and basically replicated the number of classrooms that we had. When we did the South School project to get rid of the portables, which were just like North, a safety hazard in our opinion, when we took a look at the number of classrooms, we actually reduced the number of classrooms at South by 2. So what we then did was we wound up with, in essence, approximately 96 classrooms at the elementary level. So that was part of one of the things that we looked at. The other variables we looked at were class size, enrollment projections and grade distribution, program needs such as library, art, music, PE, reading, instructional support, district-wide special ed programs, appropriate instructional space, and also trying to balance as much as we could class size from one school to the other. What we use for enrollment projection methodology is the one that we've been using over the past couple of years. We took our 2008-2009 actual numbers as of September 28th. Then we looked at our grade 1, and we looked at the kindergarten enrollment by elementary district. And the way it broke out was North 104, Matthew Thornton 113, and South 91. That gives us about 308. But each year we wind up having students enter first grade who are non-Moose Hill students. Either they move in or they had been going to private kindergartens. The previous year we had a ratio of 1.14. This year we had 34 students entering first grade. That gave us a ratio of 1.11. So we took the 308 and multiplied it by that ratio, and we had an anticipated first grade enrollment for next year of 342 students. And then, as you can see further on down, what we did do was take a look at our enrollment history from 06-07 through our projections of 2009-10 school year. And at North, we went from 584 students in 06-07 to 564. South, 624 to 572, and Matthew Thornton, 736 to 616. Total enrollment going from 1944 to 1752. Then we took a look at room utilization. First one up is basically Matthew Thornton. There's a total of 38 classrooms being used in 08-09. 32 are being used as regular ed classroom, 1 for music, 1 for art. We have 3 smaller classrooms that we use for a district-wide special ed program, a resource room. There are no empty rooms. That gives us a total of 38, and with an enrollment of 642. If we did nothing and just carried our enrollment forward based on what our projections were, we'd be using 29 classrooms at Matthew Thornton, 1 music room, 1 art room, 3 of the smaller classrooms for our district-wide special ed program, 1 resource room. There would be 3 empty rooms. 2 would be sub-900 square foot rooms. That gets us to the 38, and the total enrollment is 616. So absent any redistricting, Matthew Thornton is underutilized and has 3 empty classrooms. Obviously, then, we next looked at North School. Presently, North School is utilizing 26 rooms for regular classrooms, has 1 reading room, which is a reading resource room, 1 special ed classroom, 1 room that is about 850 square feet, and we use that for special education, occupational therapy, and speech and language. And we have 5 smaller instructional spaces that are approximately 300 square feet, art, music, special curriculum, and special ed tutors. That gives us a total of 29 with an enrollment of 569 kids. Absent any change in redistricting, or any redistricting at all, based on the numbers of students that we have and what we would like to have for class sizes, North School would then have 27 classrooms. We would have to lose the resource room. We'd have 1 special ed room. We'd have that 1 850 square foot room for special ed, occupational therapy, and speech and language, the 5 smaller classrooms. That gives us, again, a total of 29 classes altogether, 564. Now, the issue that we have there is that even though the anticipated enrollment is going to drop by 4 students, the distribution of students and class size issues would necessitate adding a classroom. Thus, North School would lose their reading resource room. And Rich can talk to you about what the impact would be. Rich?
I came up with 3 options if we were to not redistrict at North School. Because we need the 27th classroom, Nate had alluded to the rooms that we have. The reading room would be the room that we would use. The reading room is in the new part of the building. And the problem with the reading room is that it does service over 80 students on a daily basis. These are students that get additional reading support. It also houses 3 reading teachers and all of our reading materials. If we were to take the reading room, we would be displacing these students, and then we'd have to come up with another alternative space for them, i.e., in the past, we've used a corner of the library, we've used the cafeteria, and we've used the hallways. One of the problems this year in particular with the hallways is that we do have a visually impaired student in 1st grade. And if you've ever been in our building or recently, you'll notice that the hallways are absolutely immaculate. There's nothing in the hallways. And that's part of the ADA and regulations that, and for safety reasons, that this student cannot walk through the hallway with things in the hallway. So we have to be very careful with whatever we put, desks, chairs, what have you. We also have options 2 and option 3. Option 3 sort of deals a little bit with what I just talked about. In option 2, we simply would create higher class sizes at the 4th and 5th grade level. So we would not take the reading room. We would simply take the 134 kids that we currently have in 3rd grade as they move on to 4th grade. Instead of reducing class sizes, we would have numbers approximately 27 to 1 in 4th grade. The other option there would be to take a look at our older students because, you know, in terms of it's 6 one, half a dozen the other. But if we decided to move a 5th grade teacher to 4th grade to help out with those numbers, we would then have class sizes of 28.5 in the 5th grade. So again, we'd be robbing Peter to pay Paul with that particular option. And option 3 goes along with option 1. If we took the reading room away, I feel I would need to provide space for those 80 such youngsters, especially in first, second, and third grade, who move into that room on a daily basis for their reading instruction. Many of them are our Tier 2 students who require an additional 30 to 60 minutes a day. So I would then have to take a look at the smaller rooms, the music room, the art room, the special ed lab, the special curriculum room, and possibly remove 2 of those programs, move the reading department in those 2 smaller rooms, and then do the same thing I would have done with the first, second, and third graders. Then I'd have to find space for our key students, our top-level math students, or our music program, chorus band, all those kinds of things. So those things would impact not only kids' services, but the organization, I guess, or the flow of the building is how we have it now.
Right. Thank you, Rich. I'm going to skip the section on South School because it really isn't germane. So we took a look at what would be some of the possible options, what grade levels would be impacted. And when we look at redistricting, and because of the way the kids are spread out across the district, you can't just cherry pick. I can't take X number of 4th graders from one street and Y number of 4th graders from another, and Z number of 4th graders from another street, and then bus them from all over the North School District. So what we did do was take a look at various areas, and we did look at the area, obviously, that you guys are representing, which at one time, going back, way, way back, had been part of Matthew Thornton School, and it had been redistricted out when Matthew Thornton was running about 1,000 kids. So we took a look at that, and we took a look at the streets and neighborhoods that you guys are very well aware of, and we came up with 54 students. There were 8 first graders, 15 second graders, 12 third graders, and 19 fourth graders. We also made a decision at that point that we were not going to look at 5th grade students. They had last year at North School, and we didn't want to move them from North to Matthew Thornton and then to the middle school. Now, if in fact, because of the way the enrollment distribution is, if there are some multiple student families that have kids in 5th grade and kids in the younger grade levels, because of the way the numbers fall at Matthew Thornton, if any or all of the 5th grade, the parents of the kids who are in 5th grade, whose other children would be going to Matthew Thornton under this proposal, wanted their child to go to Matthew Thornton, we could accommodate that move, that 5th grade move, not impact class sizes really at Matthew Thornton. So we looked at that and we said, okay, what would be the impact as we looked at it? So if I looked at Matthew Thornton, basically what we'd wind up with for 09-10 under redistricting, there would be 31 classrooms with 1 music room, 1 art room. The district special ed program stays the same. The resource room stays the same. We'd have 1 empty classroom. That gives us a total of 38 classrooms, again, with 671 students. At North School, with the redistricting, we'd wind up with 25 classrooms. We retain the reading room, retain the special ed room, retain the special ed occupational speech and language. The 5 smaller spaces for art, music, special curriculum, etc. would still stay the same. There would be 1 empty room, so if Rich elected to move music into that room for the time being, or put more special ed tutors in there, that could be accomplished. And then we wind up with an enrollment of 509 students. Then if you go to the chart to see how the breakout would be for class sizes, and then I'll show you what it would look like under proposed redistricting, and then what would happen if we took a look at the option that Rich had mentioned before, and then also I'll talk about another option that we looked at to give you a feel. Under the redistricting, we'd wind up with 31 classes. If you go to the far right hand, not this one, Peter, attachment 2. The one we did, the one that's in the report. Okay? At Matthew Thornton, we'd wind up with 31 classes, and the S stands for sections, a number of classes at each grade level, with a class size of 19 in 1st grade, 23 in 2nd, 22 in 3rd, 23 in 4th, and 21 in 5th. At North School, we'd wind up with six first grade classes, 18, six second at 18, three at in third grade at 23, five in fourth grade at 23, and five in fifth grade at 22. Then there's 25 classes. And then if you go down to the South School, what is a note is taking a look at the class sizes ranging from 20 to 24, because part of what we try to do with the redistricting is balance out as best we can the class sizes across the district. Now, if you go back to the other chart, Pete, we also said, okay, what would happen if all we did was redistrict the incoming first graders? All right, so if you look at, and I try to give you this chart as a comparison, on the far left-hand side is no action taken. In other words, we just move, everybody stays where they are and what the impact is. The second column is what happens if we only redistrict the incoming first graders. Well, if we do that, then what we wind up with is what you see, 30 classrooms at Matthew Thornton with class sizes of 19, 20, 20, 24, and 21, and enrollment is 625. At North School, where we just move, basically it's just 9 kids that will move out, we wind up again with 27 classes. Our problem with the numbers is they're right at the cusp. So if I drop a classroom, I'm really going to wind up pumping up the class size at a particular grade level. So in effect, by just moving the potential first graders out, it really does not solve the space problem. And I can't reduce a class unless I'm going to wind up increasing class size. Now, if we don't do anything and we go with the other option Rich talked about, which is increasing class size, what we have up top, if you take a look, is what the number of classes that would be at Matthew Thornton and class sizes. And then you take a look at the North School chart. If, and I did a decrease of a class at each grade level just to save paper and show what the impact is. If I kept all the first graders there, and I dropped a class at first grade, the first grade class size would go up to 23. If I dropped the second grade class, the class size would go to 24. If I dropped the third grade class with the same number of kids, the class size would go to 28. If I dropped the fourth grade class, the class size would go to 27. If I dropped the fifth grade class, the class size would go to 28. I'm not comfortable with those class sizes at any of the levels, whichever one we chose. And whichever one we chose would also be inconsistent with what we have at the other schools. Because again, one of the things that we're trying to do is balance out class sizes and balance out programs and services and facilities needs for the kids across the district. So we did look at a couple of other options, as Rich had mentioned, and we came back with, in essence, the same recommendation that we had initially proposed to the board several weeks ago. And looking at that, the board in its wisdom felt that it would be a good idea to have a public hearing to hear from the parents that would be impacted by the move prior to them making any decision. So with that, I guess we'd be happy to respond to any questions, listen to any comments that people may have. And I guess before I say that, having had the pleasure, that's the wrong word, experience of going through redistricting several times, not only in this district but other districts, and the fact that we know that people have very, very strong allegiances to their elementary schools, which is a real positive thing from my point of view, that I know that this is a difficult decision. This is not something that we take lightly, and we realize that it does impact families and it does impact kids. So, be happy to respond to any questions that anybody might have.
So all you need to do is just come on up in orderly fashion. If you just state your name and your address just for the record. And, you know, we'd love to hear what you think about the redistricting plan. That's why we're all here. We don't bite, I swear. We have a winner.
All right.
Outstanding. Come on down.
Before,
First public hearing, so do I need to introduce myself?
before we start, if I may.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, but before we start, I've been on the board for 3 terms. I'm reaching, or is it 2 terms?
2.
Oh, good, 2. I'm reaching the end of my 2nd term, and I just want to thank everyone for coming out. We never have anybody ever come to this meeting. And if I had known, no, it's very nice, and we really appreciate the fact that you all came. And we are a very friendly crew up here. Unfortunately, the room looks wicked formal, but it's not. We just, your parents and we're parents that had children in the schools or have children in the schools, and we're all after the same thing. So thanks everyone for coming. We really appreciate it, and thanks for entertaining me.
No problem, Steve. Yeah, if you could just give us your name and your address for the record, that's
Okay.
it.
My name's Stephanie Miville. I live at 15 Raintree Drive. And
Stephanie.
I did comb through your first plan that you had on the web, so it's about maybe 10 days old at this point. And Matthew Thornton originally had 32 classrooms.
Right.
Your proposal now is showing 31. So
Correct.
I would like to know, I came in a little late, so I'm not sure if you addressed what happened to that one room. And my second question is, I'm a little concerned about the classroom size for a 2nd grader going to 23. And what's the plan that we won't necessarily go to 24 or 25 next year?
Right.
Can I sit down?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, that's
Sure
fine.
can.
Yeah. We went back through, and part of the process that we're in now, too, is budget process, to be honest. So we're starting to look at different positions, and what we also try to do is balance out class sizes and stay within a framework. So we did reduce a position from the original report at Matthew Thornton. We also reduced a position from their previous report at South School also. What we're trying, by doing what we're doing, we're trying to ensure that we've got the class sizes pretty much within the parameters that we want. The state says that going K to 2, the state requirements are 25, but they prefer less. I think 25 is too high, primary level. And then from grades 3 to 5, it's 30 or less, and I think 30 is way too high. So when we looked at the redistricting proposal across all the schools, what we wanted to do was stay way as far below as possible of those class size recommendations and stay with some of the things that we found were effective. That's why when we looked at not redistricting and looking at the class sizes and just reducing them at a particular grade level, we had a concern about that. And as we looked at the last time we redistricted was like 2001, I think. So it's been 7 years since we did a redistricting. We think this is going to last for a good 5 years. We are seeing the growth in town is up towards the north end with that on the way we've recommended the redistricting gives us a little breathing space up in North School. We have some breathing space at Matthew Thornton. We have some breathing space at South. The other good thing is that all the schools would still be able to maintain art space, music space, would still have space for special education and key kids and all the pull-out programs. Whereas several years back, we had, at all the schools, we had kids in the hallway, we had kids in landings, and we didn't feel that was appropriate. So we're trying to balance the space out across the board so we can balance services. The other thing, too, that we have done, continue to focus on over the past 7-8 years is ensuring that we are providing the same curriculum across all the elementary schools. So if you're going to North School and you were to go to Matthew Thornton, the same curriculum and programs are going to be in place. If you go from Matthew Thornton to South, the same curriculum and programs are going to be in place. So when we look at all 3 elementary schools, we're very proud of all 3. And we think we're providing really good programs and services. And we want to make sure that the facilities don't negate the ability to provide the same level of programming and services for every child at the elementary level. So that's part of the reason. And also to try and balance out the class sizes across the district. So, I didn't want to have 5 kids in a second grade over at South School and 28 kids over in a second grade at North School. Good questions.
Thanks. I know there's got to be others.
Hi, my name is Ann Lowe. I live on Chandler Drive. I have twins in 5th grade and a child in 3rd grade. When we bought our
Been
second
there,
home
done
in
that.
Londonderry on Chandler Drive, we purchased a second home in Londonderry on Chandler Drive. I specifically called the school department and asked them if they had plans to redistrict, because my children go to North and they're comfortable in North and it's just familiar for us. They said there were no plans now to redistrict. So now that I hear that my children are going to be redistricted, well, my second grader will, I'm sorry, I'm a little upset. Because I specifically called the school department and asked them, because we were looking for a house in the North District area. So, and my other question is, because I'm going to have 2 5th graders next year and a 3rd grader, will my 3rd grader have to go to Matthew Thornton while my 5th graders go to North? I'd like to keep them in the same school, at least for the last year.
I think the intent for us by redistricting was to create that space, because if I say yes to a parent who has a 3rd grader and there, and then somebody else is going to say, why did you say yes to them? Why did you say yes to them? The only option that we can look at least at this point, would be if in fact you wanted the 2 5th graders to go to Matthew Thornton with the 3rd grader. We can do that because of the way the numbers fall in class sizes, so that's doable.
No option for the 3rd grader to go to North next year.
This is me talking, my recommendation to the board would be that we don't do that, because absent any incredibly compelling reason, if I said yes to you and then I had 5 other people line up at the door and say they wanted to do that too, then it negates the benefits of doing the redistricting, and you wind up pumping up the class sizes, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to do the redistricting in the first place.
Well, the other concern being a parent is when children have things going on at school, I find that I go to the twins' classrooms to do their things, and I go to my little one. So now I'm going to have to split myself between 2 schools. So it's kind of concerning,
Right.
so.
And one of the things that we looked at too, when we looked at the areas, was trying to minimize multiple families that had multiple kids, split basically 5th grade and below. And I think there are 5 or 6 families that are in the same situation that you're in. So we recognize it and and sympathize really. And I know it's going to be an inconvenience, for that 1 year. I understand that, and I'm sure it's going to inconvenience a number of other families too. But when we looked at it, we wanted to say, all right, what kind of balance can we get with all the kids, and taking a look at what we think is going to best serve the kids instructionally across the board. And if I had any concerns at all about the program, the kids getting as good a program at Matthew Thornton as at North, we wouldn't even be discussing it. But we've worked extremely hard to make sure that the programs are balanced and are similar across all the elementary schools, and I think we've accomplished that. And they got great teachers at Matthew Thornton.
know.
They got
I
great
know
teachers
that.
at North. They got great teachers at South. So we're comfortable with that. And I think one other thing that we had thought about too, and we're very fortunate in Londonderry that we have an incredible recreation program. And a lot of the kids who are going to Matthew Thornton know the kids at North. The kids at North know the kids at Matthew Thornton. So it's not like I never saw these kids before.
Well, they play for the Wildcats, so
Yeah,
yeah.
see, there you go. So, and hopefully that'll assist. One of the other things that we did last time we redistricted, and we do the same thing, we had an orientation program for parents, we had an orientation program for the kids, we brought the kids in, brought them around, and we did the same thing for the parents, and we certainly would do the same thing this year, if in fact the board approves the proposal.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
George?
I
Ma'am,
have a question too.
before you sit down, a couple of questions, if I may? I'm John Robinson. When did you call when was it that you called the district office to find out about redistricting plans?
I called them, let's see, we found the house in May. I called them in either the end of May or the beginning of June.
Okay. Because I wasn't aware of redistricting issues before a couple of weeks ago, and I doubt you were aware of it much before then.
We were starting to look at it during the summer. We didn't know where we were gonna be looking at it. And in actuality, in the back of our mind over the past year or so, where we saw the enrollment trends, we were looking at what would happen if, had we picked out a particular area, the answer was no. And even at budget time last year, I had some concerns about what was happening, and as we were looking at enrollment and numbers and future trends. And also, too, last year, we weren't sure what was going to happen with South School until March also, and that would have had a significant impact on us, too, any future planning.
Okay.
The other question I'd like to ask, if I may,
Yes.
and I had twins go through the Londonderry schools too, with daughters. The twins were boys and the daughters were trailing along. If it came down to a choice and you got to make it between having your third grader go to Matthew Thornton and your fifth graders continue at North, or your third grader go to Matthew Thornton North rather, in a class with 26 kids, and your fifth grader in a class with about 28, 29, which would you prefer?
Okay, now you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, I know, and I don't.
Because- well,
but,
because-
but it's sort of
Right.
one of the options
Right.
available, and I'd
Right.
just like to get a sense of how people feel about it.
Okay, well, one of my twins who's in fourth this year is just, it's fine, I just was IEP'd. So he's special needs, he has a learning disability. And now I see it in my second grader coming in. So, no, I don't want them in a classroom that has 28, 30 kids, because obviously the teachers are not going to be able to teach the children that have difficulties and recognize, I think, the difficulties in the children. So, yes, I like smaller size classrooms, yes. And I would like to have had my second grader go to North School one more year, just while his brothers are there, because he's immature. He's an immature second grader. So I think that him feeling comfortable with his brothers there, if anything should happen, his brothers are there, is fine. Fourth grade, I guess, obviously we're going to have to switch him. I don't have a problem with that. My concern was at least just 1 year of him finishing North School with his brothers this year, and then fourth grade, I don't have a problem with him transferring.
Well, how about the fifth graders going to Matthew Thornton with the third grader? And the only reason I think that that's even worthy of consideration is that they're all back together with their prior fifth grade classmates the following year at the middle school.
I have my child who has the learning disability is a little shy, and I think for him to switch schools is going to hurt him more than it's going to help him. So I'd rather just keep him where he is. He has established friends, and he's more comfortable there than totally changing his life around and putting him into Matthew Thornton for 1 year and then to middle school for another year. Switching him twice in a row might be too much. I have one that's a social butterfly. He'll be fine anywhere he goes, but the other twin is very shy and has a hard time coming out of his shell.
Thank you
So-
for all that information.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Steve? Did you want to ask?
Sorry, I thought you were going to speak. Eric Melanson, 7 Jewel Court.
Yeah, 1 minute, Eric, I'm sorry. I'm trying to word this correctly. The school board identifies special needs students as student A, B, and C. We don't know if there's a special needs student that lives on our street. We would not know that. So I'm trying to be careful in how I word this to the superintendent. So if we were to have a family that were to come forward that had a special needs student who had an IAP, and the team were to determine that it would be better for that particular student to stay with their siblings, would that be something that we would work with?
Well, how about the fifth graders going to Matthew Thornton with the third grader? And your fifth graders continue at North, or your third graders go to Matthew Thornton with the fifth graders, and your fifth graders continue at North?
certainly give it some thought.
Okay. Because it's a special case in the fact that it's somebody that may have an IAP. So we would take a different look at that. And the I have a feeling my other question will come up again, so we'll wait. So it's not related. Thank you.
Thanks for waiting, Eric.
No problem. First of all, I want to thank the lady who spoke before me, and I think John's question to her was, I don't know, either a little disingenuous or a little misinformed, in that when I was listening to Nate talk about the classroom size proposals, each one of those classrooms was eliminating one classroom at that level, and it was not the proposal to eliminate and increase the class size at all levels as listed on that sheet. Am I correct in my understanding?
Yeah, what I tried to do here with this was to show if at a given grade level, if we kept all the kids at North School, if we wanted to make sure that we didn't use that 27th classroom, we would have to reduce a class at one given grade level. So instead of making up 20 charts, I just put the numbers in parens. So if the decision was that you were going to drop a first grade class, then you'd have a first grade enrollment of 23. If you're going to drop a second grade class, you'd have a first grade enrollment of 24. I wasn't proposing we drop one at every grade level.
That was my understanding. And the way the question was phrased, it sounded like you were increasing for
Well-
that third grader and those fifth graders.
Right.
See, you're right. But the reasoning behind that was, at the same time in this exercise, I was also looking at what would happen if we increased class sizes in pretty much all the grades for budgetary purposes and things like that. I'm not saying I'm recommending it. I think I might have gotten confused by my own notes.
Okay, it was just, I wanted to make sure that either I wasn't confused by Nate or which one of us
Right.
were, so.
Sorry about
just straighten that out.
No, you're absolutely correct. Just to save paper, I just put it in the paren so you could use that to compare and contrast. And then also, because I put it in that column, what I wanted you to be able to do was take a look at what the class sizes would be in comparison to the other schools too. So you could just pick your grade level.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And with that issue addressed, the other thing I wanted to say is that while the education and curriculum across the elementary schools may be the same, there is definitely a difference in personalities and familiarity amongst the students and their teachers, especially among those special ed students. And I don't know how many are affected by the redistricting that would come up. You may have those numbers there.
Actually, there are 4 youngsters that I'm aware of that have IEPs in this group.
And the next issue, which may upset me, is as we look at moving some of the students and the fact that fifth graders will be together in sixth grade again, and we look at the added cost of running double buses through the neighborhood to get fifth graders there, what was the ultimate thought process behind keeping the fifth graders at North School where there is room at North School without really affecting class size?
Well, we decided, one of the reasons that, having done this a couple times before, what my feeling was that if a student had one more year left at the school, knowing that they would be going to the middle school, it'd be preferable to keep them at that school as opposed to having them go from 4th grade at North to 5th grade at Matthew Thornton to 6th grade at the middle school. But at the same time, because of the way the numbers fell, if a parent felt comfortable with that or wanted that because they had, I think there were 5 or 6 families, because they had another sibling that was at a lower grade level and was going to Matthew Thornton, and they wanted the oldest sibling to go to Matthew Thornton, that's certainly fine with us. That's no problem. The busing for just the 5th graders would not be an issue for us. The busing, if we had a mix where we were just picking up a 3rd grader here and a 4th grader here and another one here, would be a problem. So we did look at that, and then the what's the word I'm looking for? The accommodation we wanted to make for families was if you had a 5th grader, you wanted them to stay at North, that's fine. If you wanted them to go to Matthew Thornton because a younger sibling was going to Matthew Thornton, that was fine with us too, the way the numbers fell. Because the last time we did redistricting, the same question came up. you know, why are you gonna move my fifth grader? Because we were moving kids from Matthew Thornton to South, and we were moving them all over. And the conclusion we came to was we didn't want to force a fifth grader to move twice in 2 years. So that's why we elected not to move the fifth graders.
So when you say, to carry it a little further, that there's no problem picking up those fifth graders from that neighborhood, there must be some budgetary figure allowed into that busing costs?
No,
No?
no.
None at all? There's no extra
What we'll do
cost?
is we'll just simply have the bus that's, I can't think of the streets that are further up on High Range. You remember them? You know, higher than that. There's another group of, like a development. That bus would swing down and pick up the fifth graders. And we looked at that, there's really two clumps of the fifth graders are, so there wouldn't be that much wouldn't be an impact, maybe, you know, a couple months of gas or something. We wouldn't have another bus or anything.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
My name is Brian Pennell, and I live on Chestnut Hill Drive, and I guess I really have more of a comment than I do a question. I'm in the similar situation as a previous speaker, where I will have a son entering North School in the 5th grade who does have an IEP. Then I will have a son, according to this redistricting plan, go into Matthew Thornton in the 1st grade. And I am not open to the idea of moving my child in the 5th grade to Matthew Thornton, only to have to then reintroduce another change again when he goes to the 6th grade. Given the nature of his learning disability, he just is not able to adapt to that change. So I would encourage the board to listen to the proposal that Mr. Young had previously discussed briefly and take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Shannon Kaiser. I live on Chestnut Hill Drive also. I have 4 children, a 2nd grader, a 1st grader, a kindergartner, and soon to be one in LEAP next year. So my husband and I's concern is, are we gonna be back here in a couple of years redistricting again? My youngest one, who will be in LEAP, is severely special needs. So I don't wanna have some kids in Matthew Thornton and then have to turn around and say, you know, Bridget might need to go to North because she is gonna be a child that needs to stay where she's at. So I just wanted to know how long you thought that this is
At
gonna
a
be for.
minimum, 5 years. Last time we did a redistricting was 2001, so it lasted 7 years.
Okay.
You know, the only caveat I would put on that, if all of a sudden somebody put up some huge development, or we had a bazillion kids move into Vista Ridge, you know, that would create an issue. But based on what we know now, I would say a good 5 years. And what we tried to do with the redistricting too, and looking at the class size, was give us a little breathing room
Okay.
on this too. So I feel fairly comfortable with it, and I understand completely what you're saying. What we don't want to do is bounce families
Right.
around. And so when we looked at it, and we looked at the numbers and what grade levels the kids were in, that was part of our thinking too. I don't want to be sitting up here 2 years from now and having you look at me and say, you told me, or you just bounced my kid around, you know, 3 times. So we really decided that that was part of the thought process in looking at it, so that we could give the parents some breathing room on this, give the school some flexibility, maintain class sizes at a decent level, and not bounce kids around every 3-4 years. Absent the caveats I gave
Right.
you, I feel fairly comfortable that we would be in good shape.
Okay.
And, if recent history is anything to go by, last redistricting, as I said, lasted 7 years.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Ron?
Nate, would you clarify that a little bit? The last redistricting was Matthew Thornton down to South
South.
School. That has not changed.
Right.
The expectation is that this group here is moving to
Matthew
Matthew
Thornton.
Thornton. That would not change. I think, if I understand the proposal, if there was another redistricting, it may be someone else moving south.
Right.
And that's what
Right.
what this whole thing, when we say it's supposed to last 5 years, based on the area that is open and potentially could be built on, the population seems to be heading southward from the north area down to south. So you may see children, another area in 5 years move from Matthew Thornton down south. That's,
Yeah, thank you very much. And what I was really looking at was the impact on North School. You know, that's what we wanted to stay away from. You know, there may be, if all of a sudden there was some significant, for instance, let's say the economy got better, all right? Just to give you a broader picture, there are a large number of people who live in town who moved in town 15, 20 years ago when their kids were young. Now, many of their kids have graduated from high school or near high school graduation, their youngest. So in a few years, depending on how the economy is, they may be looking to downsize their houses. So now they've got 3, 4-bedroom homes in different parts of town, and younger families would be moving in to replace those people who are now, you know, just a couple, really. Or in my house, my older boy still has not left, and he's still there, but he's not impacting the school system. So, you know, there's an issue there. But so Ron is correct, and also you're also correct in what I said too. Looking at North School, we don't want to move the kids around. We don't look, you know. We're in a very interesting business. We know we're working with children. We know we're working with parents, and we know people have allegiances and people have feelings, and there are programs and services that people have been accustomed to, and we try to be very, very sensitive to that when we make these recommendations. We really do. So.
Thank you. Hello, my name's Kelly Hamilton. I live on Chandler Drive, and this is actually more of a question, but just curious. I know that North School underwent some renovations 2 years ago, maybe?
Yes.
So, and I think you commented that most of the growth is expected at North School, and I was just curious why we weren't having this conversation before any changes took place to the building at North School or South School.
That's a good question. When we looked at the renovation work at North, and when we looked at the renovation work at South, we also took a look at our long-range enrollment projections and said, how many classrooms at the elementary level will we need? And with keeping, when we did work at North, we decided we keep the same number of classrooms there, get rid of the portables. And we reduce, if we got lucky, and we did, get a bond issue at South when we got rid of those portables, reduce that by 2, because we felt that the 96 elementary classrooms that we would have district-wide would serve us very well. And what we recognized at that point in time is that we may have to, from time to time, do some redistricting, as opposed to putting on extra classrooms at North, and then having a whole bunch of empty classrooms at Matthew Thornton or a whole bunch of empty classrooms at South. So what we try to do is take a look at the entire elementary classroom stock, for lack of a better term, when we did the construction. One, because we felt it was a more effective way of dealing with population spikes, and that and that it was budgetarily, it was more fiscally prudent to do that, because North School site is a pretty compacted site. And when we were looking at putting on extra space, because of the way the school is sited, the only way we could do that was be putting on a second floor, and that was very expensive. So we couldn't, in a sense, squeeze any more classrooms in there, and our main goal really, well, as everybody probably remembers, those portables had long passed their due date. Their freshness date, and so to speak. So we had to get rid of those. And the same thing was true at South. So what we try to do is look at classrooms across the district and make that decision, as opposed to saying, we're going to add 3 or 4 more additional classrooms at North, and we'll add 3 or 4 more additional classrooms at South.
Right. It's just what you've done, it's very difficult to obviously look forward and to try to project. And I know it's hard for all of us here as parents, but I know it's hard for you too to try to guess and figure out where we're going. One other quick question for you. The redistricting that happened in 2001, what was that shift again?
Matthew Thornton to South.
Matthew Thornton to South. So nobody from Matthew Thornton went to North?
No.
no.
No. No.
Chandler
And
didn't
at
go
that
to
time,
North
I
at that
believe,
time?
We redistricted 80 students, somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 students,
Okay.
if I remember
And
correctly.
Chandler Drive did not used to go to Matthew Thornton?
Chandler Drive used to
A
relate
long-
that.
Way back.
I believe it used to go there 20 years ago. Or some,
Matthew Thornton had 1,000 kids.
before 1988, I believe
Was it a
before.
road then? It was.
What I'm saying is,
We're a new neighborhood.
what I'm saying is that whole area, the redistricting, the major redistricting was when Matthew Thornton was built from 600 up to 850.
Okay.
And that was back in 88 when the redistricting there. Everything else has tended to have small changes here and there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sharon Seeley. I live on Tyler Drive. I have triplets that are going into fourth grade next year. I have one with an IEP, and I think your numbers might be a little incorrect for how many kids have specific IEPs, because I know of at least a half dozen more just in our area that have specific IEP programs. So I'm just concerned. I mean, I know having triplets, they're their own entity. The teachers know them. That in fourth and fifth grade, I'm just concerned about changing their school and how they're going to make out. Yeah, the teachers aren't going to know them. I don't know.
Your triplets are split between 2 grades?
No, they're in third grade now. They're going into fourth. I'm just
I had
concerned
to-
about the grades, moving them from one school to the next. The teachers at North School know them as their own little entity. I mean, they've known them from before they were even entered into the school program.
So your triplets are in what grade?
Third. And one of them has an IEP. They're in 3 different classrooms. We keep them separated, but, my concern is that the IEP program is not going to be, the Matthew Thornton doesn't know my kids, and North does.
Thanks.
That's all.
Thank you.
I have a question for Nate, if that's okay.
Sure.
Nate, it seems like you indicated we have 4 IAP students between the schools. And it sounds like we've had 4 people speak
Right.
so
The
far.
the
Five.
I was going to get there.
Right. The information I had was that on the distribution of kids that were going, I had 4 students with IEPs.
The ones that
Go
would
back and
move.
check. Yes.
So the 5th graders that would be staying there wouldn't be
They
counted.
wouldn't be
Okay,
included
in
this.
that 4 number.
Right.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Hi.
My name's Julie Boyle, and I live on Chandler Drive. And I have a son that's in 3rd grade that has an IEP, and he's been identified since he was 3-year LEAP. So I have a concern about him having to switch schools because it's kind of difficult for him. He's been working with the same special ed coordinator for 4 years because he stayed back in first. So it's going to be a big enough adjustment for him to work with a new coordinator, and to have to switch schools, I'm just very concerned about it.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, okay. Hi.
Kim Allman. I live on 9 Laurel Hill. And I guess I have a comment and a question. My comment is we moved here 2.5 years ago, purposely to the district of North School. I went to North School when I was young. I want my kids to go to North School. My son is shy. He goes to the reading program. I think it would be hard for him to go to a different school. And if they do get redistricted, would they be able to at least go with the other kids that they know, be in that same class? He's in 3rd grade. So would he be able to go and be in a classroom with some of the other kids that are from North School, 3rd grade? So at least he knows some kids there.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. That's no problem at all.
That's
Hi,
Hi, my name's Lisa McPhail. I live on Chandler Drive. I just really have more of a comment. My daughter found out about this on the bus. I wasn't going to tell her because my daughter is a very sensitive child, and I knew change would be hard for her. And she actually came off the bus very upset, crying. And since she's found out, she's been coming home every day. She's just a wreck. I don't want to go to Matthew Thornton. All my friends are at North School. And I feel that pulling my child, she's in 3rd grade right now, pulling her and making her go in 4th grade, in 5th grade, then another change again for 6th grade would be devastating for my child. And I just look at it as a spiraling effect that if she's going to have a hard time making a transition 4th grade, 5th grade, then another transition in 6th grade, this is going to have an impact on her self-esteem, possibly her education, and I just think that it would be a very difficult move for my child. I also have a son who's in LEAP right now. In going forward, I would have no problem knowing that in years that my son will be entering 1st grade in 3 years. I would have no problem with him starting fresh at Matthew Thornton. But to pull my daughter right now out of North School where she's finally in 3rd grade, she feels comfortable, she knows the teacher, she's made some friends, and then to have to uproot her and start her all over again, it would just be devastating for my daughter.
Ma'am?
Yes.
If I may ask the same question, would you prefer her to be in a classroom, a larger class?
I would.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
Question for Nate.
Sure.
Nate, if, I'm sorry. Would the impact of grandfathering everyone into a school, would the impact of that, I think that's effectively what she just said, keep the students that are in that school, and from now on, they get redistricted or they go to the right school. Would the only effect for that be larger class sizes?
Pretty much.
And also, Mr. Zakili talked about the loss of space.
Right.
For special,
It would be either one of those.
Right.
Because if we reduce the class size, then we would take one of the classrooms. If we didn't reduce the class size, we would have large class size, but we wouldn't take the reading room or that ancillary space.
Because when, on the grandfathering issue, that was one of the reasons that we took a look at what would happen if we just redistricted the incoming 1st graders, and how would that impact. That was one of the reasons we took a look at that. So, that obviously is an issue. If we grandfathered everybody, it doesn't solve the issue as we see it. You're really left
it solves
with,
the issue in 5 years.
Yes. You're really left with basically only 2 options. That is, you're either going to increase class sizes, or you'll lose that reading instruction space, and as Rich described, you're going to have kids going all over the place in multiple rooms to get, whether it's reading services or special ed services or or enrichment services or programs. That's the issue that we have.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Anybody? Yep, hi.
Kelly Hamilton again. Just to follow up on Lisa McPhail, when she answered that she would prefer the classes to be bigger, I was going to add to that and I think you, Mr. Zakili, you mentioned one of the options was for 4th and 5th grade classes to be a little bit bigger. I would also opt for that as well in the 4th and 5th grade when they are able to handle the larger class sizes a little bit better, in addition to the fact that there's never just one teacher in the classroom nowadays. There are multiple assistants helping out as well. So if we were able to have assistants to help the teachers in those larger classrooms, that might be an offset or an option to allowing that to work, the 4th and 5th grade classes being
Bearing in mind that we'd be
being a little bit
talking
bigger.
about classes of 27, 28.
Yeah, and how big are they now?
Nate, 22?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously that's a budget issue, if you have the budget to bring in extra assistants to those classrooms. I don't know whether that's possible or not, but just a thought, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Me again. Just getting on the topic of the larger class sizes, I mean, if we're gonna sit and make comments here, I personally am not comfortable with having my child in a classroom of 28 or 29 students. And then to talk about maybe grandfathering to incoming first graders, I'd be affected by a first grader next year, but also have a second and third grader and one at LEAP. So that would put me in a position personally that I would have a child at North, a child at Matthew Thornton, and a child with special needs who's medically handicapped that I would need to get to immediately if I needed to at Moose Hill. So I just, you know, as a parent with 4 kids, I can't be all over town with kids in 3 different schools at one time. So that was just my comment to add to that also.
Thank you. Eric?
Hi, Eric Melanson again. In looking at attachment number 2, which was the complete redistricting program, the 09-10 redistricting plan at Matthew Thornton has 5 second-grade classrooms with a class size of 23. Without redistricting and dropping one classroom, one of the second-grade classrooms, we end up with a class size of 24 students, 1 student more at North School, without the redistricting plan going through. So when we talk about the increase in class size, I know somebody said they'd rather see it at the upper grade levels, but if my student were going into second grade at, you know, into a new school at Matthew Thornton with 23 or staying at North School with 24, my child's not in that grade level, but I would say, you know, have 1 more student in each of the classes in the second grade level.
Thanks, Eric.
Hi, I have a geography question. As far as the area that was
sorry, can you
picked,
just give us
I'm
your name
sorry,
for
I'm
record,
Melanie
please?
Tamburello. We live at 3
Thank-
Royal.
Thank you.
I don't believe we're affected, but I have a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a baby on the way, so I'll have 3 children within the school district within 6 years. As far as the areas that were picked in order to move geographically to a new school, was it the closest area to the school, or was it the area with the least amount of children that fit the bill of the amount of children you need to move from one school to the other? How was the area picked?
Peter, could you put up, we can put up
I looked at the map, just curiosity.
We looked at it, actually was a combination of factors. What was an area that was close to Matthew Thornton, and also distribution of students. Okay, so it was a combination.
I think she's in.
Okay.
So in that response, were other areas visited as far as moving?
Yeah, we took a look, yeah.
So what would be the difference if you, say, had 10 children in one geographical location for a developmental area versus the 8 that you're looking at now? Because it seems like there's a lot of parents that have children with special needs, and that's their big concern. I don't have to deal with that personally, but I know with parents that do, I have a child who's hyperactive, and that to me is crazy, but that to me would be a huge concern as far as moving children, huge, because I agree with everything that they've said emotionally, and, you know, their educational stability with being with the same group of people. I had an aunt who was a special educator, I have a cousin who's a special educator, and that would be tremendous, tremendous, tremendous on those children to have to move, learn new surroundings as well as new teachers. So that would be my concern for those parents especially.
Thank you. Anyone else?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
I emphatically don't mean this to sound like if you don't like it, come up with a solution. That's certainly not what I'm saying. What I do want to ask is, does anybody have any ideas, anything that we might not have thought of beyond either redistricting this area or a larger class size? Some other way to come up with the number of students that is targeted for this plan or for meeting the classroom needs? Just any ideas at all, because otherwise it's just us thinking about it.
Go to a bigger area and redistrict first graders to Matthew Thornton.
No, I'm sorry, you just need to come to the microphone, because the people at home, I mean, that vast audience we have out there, can't hear what you're saying.
Why can't you, okay, great. Why can't you widen the area that you want to redistrict and phase in first graders that have no siblings in North School and phase them in to Matthew Thornton?
I guess if we start looking at one particular grade level, you're going to find the kids that are spread out all over the North School area. So in order to pick them up, you're going to wind up with running multiple buses to different locations to get to Matthew Thornton. So part of what we looked at when we did the redistricting was where was an area that would provide appropriate busing, as well as a distribution of students at particular grade levels that would alleviate some of the overcrowding. So if we just picked one grade level, we'd be all over the map.
No, I mean in our area, but just maybe widen it, maybe a couple more roads, and would that decrease the numbers in North to allow for the children to stay in North, if you redistrict them to Matthew Thornton?
I can't give you an answer to that right now. I really can't.
Because my friend here, who doesn't want to get out, her children go to her mother-in-law's, who will stay in the North District, but because the two parents work and the grandparents watch the children before and after school, how's that going to impact those parents? That they drop their kids off, they go to North now, but they're in the redistricting area. So if their second grader, who's in my son's class, has to go to Matthew Thornton, how is the bus going to pick her child up from her mother-in-law's, who will be in North District, to get them to school?
We wouldn't be able to do that at that
Right.
point.
They would have to move him to, he wouldn't be able to stay.
We wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay, that was it.
I'm not a parent. I'm the principal of South School, Linda Boyd. And because I'm not really emotionally involved in this situation, I thought I could speak to one point we hadn't brought up yet. And according to our strategic plan, whenever our children change schools or placements, we do have a transition plan in place. So we would do that for any of the kids who do transition to Matthew Thornton, just like we do from kindergarten into the schools, just like we do for our district-wide programs. We do have kids who do not go to their home school, who go to a special ed program in a different school, and we do provide them with a very solid transition program. So just wanted to reassure you about that, and that we have very talented people in all our schools, and they take their jobs very seriously. So.
Thanks,
I have a
Linda.
question for Linda then. So Linda, have you had students that have, I know we moved in town from one home to another. Have you had students, that have moved from one part of town to South School? In other words, they had a home in the north part of town and they moved to the south part of town?
Oh, all the time. All the time. And because our curriculum is so consistent, it's a very easy transition. But we have children who are, have very specific special needs, who go to a specific program. You may not be aware. We have a program at South School called Program for Success. That's for our emotionally handicapped children. There are two programs at Matthew Thornton. The Friends program for children on the autistic spectrum, and then I think it's basic academic skills. So there's two levels of programs. Those kids are not all Matthew Thornton students.
They can be from all over the district.
Yeah.
But let me go back to a situation where a family may have a home in the north side of town and they find the farmhouse they were looking for down in South Londonderry. So they move to that. We know, as the board knows, that the programs are the same. But are you saying that there's a special program that those kids go through to transition them into the school?
If there's a mass of children going to a different level, like kindergarten to first grade, we do a pretty good transition program. From 5th grade into middle school, there's a transition program, and it's not just for the kids, it's for the parents as well, and then from middle school to high school. Take it very seriously. It's in the strategic plan, and it will be a piece of this redistricting. We just hadn't gotten there yet.
And Steve, I think too, if I have a third grader that's moving to South School, We don't have a formal transition program, but Linda and I would be in conversation about the family and when they're moving, if there's any specific needs and what have you. And we would do that internally amongst the three of us, depending on
The
that.
kids will come and get a tour, the parents will spend time with us. We know it's important. We know it's very important for the parents and the children to feel comfortable with their new setting.
Thanks, Linda.
Hi, Brian Pennell, Chestnut Hill Drive again. I guess I just want to make a comment to Linda. As a parent of a child who is in who has an IEP as a special, as a learning disability, I guess I would not be open to the idea of a transition plan, only because my son has been involved with the same groups of students for the last 4 years, and that's just not an option that I would take for my child, so that both of my kids can be at Matthew Thornton next year. So I applaud the transition plan, but I don't think it's an option for everybody.
Thank you.
George, follow up?
Sure.
Peter, could you put the map graphic up again? Now, being still rather new at this and certainly never having gone through a redistricting idea before, maybe the questions I'm going to ask are kind of uninformed. But what happens if we look around all the perimeter zones, I guess they're this, and see about where the first graders are in each of these, and see about extending existing bus routes up a little bit more? I mean, rather than the one catchment down here, just look around the entire perimeter and see if there's a way to do it that way.
If, no matter how you sliced it, what you would be doing is perpetuating for 5 years, let's say, an extended bus route that goes through the whole section of North School. You also run the concern, and here's where part of the concern comes in when we look at transportation too. We haven't hit winter yet. When we hit winter and we've got snow on the ground and we've got weather, because of travel conditions, bus routes get longer. I'm not so sure I'd want to have a whole bus load of first grade kids going all over the place to get to Matthew Thornton or go home at night. So part of what we look at is, going back to the other thing is what were the grade levels that are impacted? The second thing would also be, where is our cluster of students, okay, that makes for efficient transportation and pickup, okay, in the long term, not just for 1 year, and trying to balance out the class sizes along the way. So, you know, that's part of looking at it. If I could cherry pick, you know, it'd be okay, but you really can't. And then there's no guarantee that a year from now, you might wind up having a first grader down here and another first grader down here, so it becomes a movable feast. So you're better off with one cluster of streets, really.
Okay, follow up to that, just to make sure I understand. The downside of that would be additional, well, among the downsides you mentioned would be additional time on a bus. Would there be additional transportation costs, things such as that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
By using the buses that we already have going out there, just telling them to run up this street and grab 2 first graders?
Well, if you're going to be extending the time of a bus run, then you're going to have a negative impact someplace else. Because now you're going to be going back into that area to pick up those first graders along with the other ones. So when you look at bus routes, not only do you look at number of kids that are on the bus, but the length of the particular bus run.
John?
So, you know, and one second, Pete. I'll give you an example. We added a bus in kindergarten because we found we had these very long runs, too long, and I'm afraid we'd run into a similar thing
The example I was
there.
gonna give, John, is on kindergarten, we have, on an average, say 25 kids on a bus. because their 6 buses are doing, well, Pillsbury North, and 6 buses are doing Pillsbury South. So you have 25 kids on average on a kindergarten bus, but the average bus run for kindergarten is 45 minutes. Because of the amount of time that they're going in the areas.
On that subject, by the way, a reminder, you were going to give me the report from the bus companies about route lengths and how many kids on buses and things like that. You haven't given it to me.
Let's keep to what we're doing right now.
I'm just asking for the reminder.
I understand, John. Steve?
To John's subject, I want to talk a little bit about a social dynamic here. I think we've talked about the schools, and the effects on the children, and I think there's a focus here on the special needs, those with IAPs. But I want to talk about a social dynamic that would exist. If we were to look at a proposal whereby we sent the buses on multiple routes, so that some of the children on the street went to North School, some of the children on the street went to South School, for more than this transition period of 1 year for the 5th graders. I happen to live on a street with 7 homes, and we have 21 children in the school system on the street. There's none in my house anymore. I had 3 children that went through the schools. But I know that the children on the street would have a difficult time if their friend across the street went to a different school. So I think that that's something that we have to consider too, if I'll have to call them student A and student B. So if student A across the street went to Matthew Thornton and student C on my side of the street went to North School, I think it might be a social situation or issue with them. But that's just my anecdotal experience on my street and what they might experience. You parents may be able to share other feelings on that.
Melanie Tamborello again. You already have that. My road is split. We have 2 houses on my road that go to Matthew Thornton. Everybody else goes to North.
And what street is that?
We're on Royal. So you already have that. There are parents I probably would never even meet because our children would be 2 houses away and we're going to separate schools. And I can walk up the hill to the house. It's not that far. So you already have that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see Royal split, but
Neither do I.
George? George?
Yes.
You have,
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm trying to
In
watch maps.
comment
Hi.
to Steve's
Yeah.
comment
Yep.
that he was just making, I'm Jody Pennell,
Hi,
and I would
Jody.
have that same issue in my own home. My 5-year-old who has an IEP would be going on a different bus than my first grader, and to explain that to a first grader who's been dying to go on the bus with the brother, how do I explain that to him? That's what I'd like to know.
You gotta follow that one. What? Yeah. Anyone else?
yeah, you're going to kill me for this.
Go ahead.
Okay. I just said to the chairman,
No,
he's
we
going to
gotta-
kill me
we
for this.
gotta- we gotta-
We have one student in here who, in a story with the school board, told us about getting onto a bus and how scary it was. And I'd like to ask her to come forward, and that's Carol Mack. And the reason I am asking Carol to come forward is Carol's the principal of Matthew Thornton and hasn't had a chance to speak. But she told us a story about how she switched roles with a student one day, and she had to take the bus to school, and how scary it was to stand outside in front of her house down near Max Apples and take the bus. But just so everybody can put a face on it, if we were to make this change, this is the principal of your students, of your children. So.
And I've been sitting there listening to everyone, and I know what a heartache this is. I'm a parent too, but I also know, and I didn't want to stand up here and sound defensive, but I know how wonderful the people are at Matthew Thornton, and I thank Mrs. Boyd for coming up and sharing some of those wonderful thoughts. But each year, I do take a chance of being a student for a day, and I do ride on the bus. And as I stand on Mammoth Road, I worry about, is anybody going to want me to sit with them on the bus? I get into school, and I go into class, and people kind of stare at me, and I feel what it must be like to be a new student in a school. I sit in the cafeteria and eat my lunch, and everybody stares at me and looks and say, she's eating. And it's a wonderful experience. And then I have to go out on the playground. And I wonder if anybody's going to play with me. And it makes me laugh every year when I go through this, and I actually do feel what it's like to be a student. And we try to incorporate that into everything that we do at Matthew Thornton, as I know Mr. Zakili does, and I know Mrs. Boyd does. I would stand any of our special education teachers up against any others and tell you that they all do a wonderful job. We have had several new students come, some from North, some from South, and they all have, some of them have special needs. And we have worked so hard to make sure that those children are integrated into the Matthew Thornton family. And we truly are a family at Matthew Thornton. And we will adopt as many people as you will allow us to. We will welcome you to our PTA. We will have transitions. And if this is the decision that is made, we will do everything we can to make sure that your child is comfortable and is welcome into the Matthew Thornton community. I hope this helps. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Susie?
Susie Swinson.
She's
20
never
years
told.
ago, 20 years ago,
Oh.
20 years ago, I lived on Red Deer Road. We were here. We were at North School. Oh, North School, best school ever. This was it. Then they decided they had to redistrict because Matthew Thornton was opening up after the big expansion that they did. And my two boys, first grade and second grade, were going to go to this big school. They had, they have 1,000 students when it opened. And it was like, so we were going from North to Matthew Thornton from Red Deer Road. And my one son had asthma, and I swore Mrs. Ham was the only school nurse that could give my son his inhaler. He was going to die. He was going to die if he went to Matthew Thornton. And it was awful. It was the most horrible thing that could ever happen. But it happened. It happened. It was the only thing that it had to work out that way, and it worked. And my boys, it worked out fine. They went to the middle school. They already knew kids at North. They already did that, so they kind of already had an edge on knowing. So it does work. I know it's awful. Believe you me, my son was going to die. It was all there was to it. And I understand fully what you're feeling. Understand fully. But believe you me, I do work in the school district, and you have got people that give 150%, believe you me, every day. And it really does work out. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie. I'm going to give you guys one more chance if anybody else wants to come up and speak before we close the public hearing.
I hate to come up again and bother you, but...
No, you're not bothering us, Eric. Not at all.
Somebody else had a question for me, and they wanted to know when the final decision would be made, if redistricting is done, if changes are made, how and when will we know?
With any luck, in about 15 minutes. The intent is to make a decision this evening. So, and that's, that's simply at the pleasure of the board. There could be any one of us that chooses to delay that for, whatever reason. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, just real quick.
Sure.
Sorry, Kelly Hamilton again.
Not a problem.
I know there's a lot of parents of special needs kids here today, and my son is actually in 5th grade and has an IEP, so hopefully he'll move on to 6th grade next year, and we won't have to worry about him. But my daughter's in 3rd grade and does not currently have an IEP, and I'm actually most concerned about her right now. So I do think that all children are affected, whether they have an IEP or not, although I do think it is more difficult for the kids with IEPs. But I can tell you, my husband and I have been away for 2 weeks, and she's been tremendously affected by that. And to have this information on top of that right now for her, it's really affecting her. So just wanted you to know that, and I
Thank
know
you.
it goes across the board for all the kids, whether they have special needs or not. So
I understand. Thank you, I appreciate that. Anyone else? Okay, before I close the public hearing, I do have,
You know what? Nate, would it be okay to ask our special needs director to come up?
Sure.
I really, I think I need to have her address a few things.
Kim, would you come on up for a minute? This is Kim Carpinoni, what's your title? Pupil Coordinator.
Director of Pupil Service.
Thank you. Pupil Services, pupil something.
Yeah, so I'll translate that. She takes care of the special needs students. I guess, Kim, my interest is when a situation like this occurs, and you have students with IEPs, and there's a team, what types of conversations and meetings occur to make sure that those students' needs are implemented correctly?
Sure. I haven't been here during a redistricting in my
I haven't
role.
either, so.
But we have had many students who have just moved geographically, like Linda Boyd had described, from north to south or to Matthew Thornton. We've had many, many children obviously transition from K to 1, 5, 6, 8, 9. And we've also had students who are not in their neighborhood school because of specialized programming that they require at either South or Matthew Thornton. And to prepare for all of those scenarios, the team gets together with the parent and develops whatever plan the child needs. And sometimes that's many meetings with the neighborhood school or the sending school and the receiving school. So for example, if you have a child with an IEP at North and they are being redistricted to Matthew Thornton, depending on the outcome of the decision tonight, then we would start immediately dialoguing with your team at North regarding your child. What are the IEP services? What does that look like at Matthew Thornton? And it will look very seamless because we have the same supports at all of our schools. Give you an opportunity to have meetings with the Matthew Thornton team, meet case managers, meet occupational therapists, speech and language pathologists, counselors. Depending on the child and what's appropriate and what they're ready for, have visitations, have lunch at Matthew Thornton, have recess time at Matthew Thornton, peer them up with another peer at Matthew Thornton so they have a buddy ready for them. There are many, many things that we do when this occurs and that we will do to decrease any of the emotional impact that we know will occur, but try to support the child and the family through all of that.
Would there be any cases where the decision of the team, and the parents are part of the team?
They are.
Would there be any time where a decision may be made to keep them in a particular environment, keep them in the same school? Or is that
It would truly depend on the needs of the child and what services and supports that child required, and what the entire team, and the parents are equal members of that team, and they're the ones that agree or disagree at the end, determine would be the best for the child.
And the other thing, I think we've seen this on the board before, when you have students that leave the district, you actually go through the same service if they're moving to Manchester or Syracuse or...
We do. I mean, depending on the needs of the children, but we have had children who have moved to other New Hampshire towns, recently moved out of state, across the border, Massachusetts, but that required our team to go to the new school to help acclimate the new team to the child and then help the child ease into the new school. And we do absolutely do that.
Okay, thanks.
George, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
What would, among the things that we've heard tonight are concerns about special needs students whose siblings would be moving to a different school, and the impact of having basically kids of the same family going to different schools on the special needs students. Any thoughts or observations or input on that? I know you automatically want to talk about specifics, and I know you can't do that. I'm thinking more in terms of general themes.
I guess, I guess it depends on the individual kid and the individual family. I don't think you can make a generalization on that. sometimes we work with kids who have siblings in the same school, and the child is just naturally matriculating up to the middle school or from the middle school to the high school. So the staff will work with those kids on it. So it happens. But to make a generalization, I don't think you can, because kids are different and they're impacted differently.
Right, I agree, and I don't want to try to duck questions from you or parents, but
I'm
what
not suggesting that you are.
But what I can absolutely guarantee is that for any child that currently has an IEP or that goes through the referral process this year and becomes identified, the team both at North and at Matthew Thornton will work absolutely collaboratively throughout the year to make this as easy as we can, appreciating that parents with children that have IEPs or that don't, but every child's unique and what they might need. All set with me?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. What I started to say was, we received one email through the superintendent of family that could not be here this evening. I just need to read that into the record. Dear Mr. Greenberg, I am a parent of 2 children that will be affected by the plan to redistrict from North School to Matthew Thornton. Myself and my wife are unable to attend the meeting on the 21st, but we would like to express our full support for this plan. Having grown up in Londonderry myself, I feel all school programs are the same. Not one school is better than the other. It comes down to convenience of being closer to one school or another. Regardless of the outcome of the hearing, where we live on Tyler Drive, both school buses would go by our house. If you make Matthew Thornton bus stop next year at 18 Tyler Drive, our sons will get on that bus. Sincerely, Mike and Kelly Wyman at 18 Tyler Drive. Did you get that, Mary?
Okay,
Thank
and also too, just for the record, George,
Yep.
some of the parents who are here tonight, as well as others, had sent emails,
Yes.
and I believe the board has copies
Yep.
of all those.
Yep.
Okay.
We do. We typically only read in those that the folks aren't here. Everybody else has the opportunity to speak up. With that, we'll close the public hearing, and the board will deliberate on the redistricting if we get a motion on it. Is there a motion to consider the redistricting?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to reconsider, or to consider redistricting the area that is outlined in the superintendent's plan for students from North School to Matthew Thornton.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I wanted to talk about it.
Okay, I'll second for discussion.
Okay, I have a second, a motion and a second for discussion. Mr. Young.
Nate, I have a question. Did we consider, community's going to love this, did we consider portables at North School?
I wondered that too.
I'm serious. And the question is, it sounds like a space issue at North School, and then it would be a staffing issue. So there's funds that would be required. So did we consider portables as one of the options?
It was a fleeting thought through my mind, very fleeting. And I think the reason it was so brief was that when we initially went into the construction projects at all the schools, the idea was that we were going to try and establish enough classroom space across the district to accommodate our students and to move away from portables, and finally get rid of those things.
Even if they or it was used for the 5-year transition period?
Yeah, I think, yeah, because...
I'm a brick and mortar guy, so...
Yes, I guess the answer to that is yes. I think that it would not be a fiscally prudent thing to do with empty classrooms in other schools of the district. And because of the confidence I have in the quality of programs at all 3 elementary schools, I felt comfortable with the decision to make a recommendation to redistrict.
To that, to that point, I went through I was working on the computer here while we were going through this, and there's a few dynamics in the community I think we need to understand. I live in a home with 4 bedrooms. There's just 2 of us now. The children are all gone. I live there because we choose to. We want to stay in the community. But we could sell that home and then children move in. In my particular case, the children will move into Matthew Thornton School. Another dynamic you have is I went through and there's a particular area of open space, or not open space, but rather available land in central Londonderry, located on Route 102. I totaled up 3 lots of 227 acres. We could be looking at 200 homes there in central Londonderry. Obviously, the market doesn't exist today to build those homes, and people won't be doing that. But when we widen 93 to 8 lanes, I certainly can see that executives from Massachusetts would want to live in this beautiful, pristine wooded area. So, in fact, unless
They'll be bulldozing to build their houses.
yeah, in fact, unless we find some method to do appropriate commercial and industrial development in that area, we could be building homes with 200 homes with a few children in each home, which will fill up our schools. So I don't think that this is the first time that we'll see this redistricting question, and it's a more complex picture, and I think that I'd ask everyone to get involved with trying to protect lands like that, so that we don't end up with more children in our schools, which cost this community money. That said, I am, as long as we are looking to make appropriate steps that all of the special education children are taken into account in this situation, I am, since I made the motion, comfortable with this redistricting plan.
Thanks, Steve. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the administration for taking the initiative to develop this plan. I think it's the appropriate action on behalf of the administration to present this to the board. And personally, I probably have never met a dollar that I wouldn't spend on education. But that being said, I think that, and I also want to add, I'm not particularly sympathetic to all of the concerns that were expressed here, but given the current state of the financial world and just the economic environment, I think this might be the one year where we should be cognizant of the money that we're spending, and if we have an opportunity to reduce those dollars, we should do it. I know it's counter to many of the things I've said in the past, but I think that this is an opportunity where we won't significantly impair the ability to deliver education at any of the schools and have an opportunity to pick up a few dollars in the budget. So I personally am not in favor of the redistricting program.
I guess as I look at this, I have no question about the quality of education at the 3 elementary schools. I believe they're equal. I've sat here when Matthew Thornton parents were sitting in your spot and we moved the 76 students down to South School. That's not an issue. I believe the special education will be taken care of. I think we'll do a fine job in that. However, I guess I'm against it this year. I think it's inevitable, and let me be very clear, I think it's inevitable that we're going to have to move some of the area or houses down south, but I don't think this is the year to do it. I think I'd like to see what happens in the economy. I'd like to see how the growth is next year. I'd like to get one more year under my belt to look at the numbers that I see coming in here, to see if there's something that happens because of the economy that changes these numbers and the dynamics of the situation. So I will be voting against this year. but I believe it is inevitable over the next 3 to 5 years, or even next year or the year after that. Thank you.
John?
I guess we're laying out our rationales. With all respect to the work that the administration and the teachers and all the professionals in the school district do, I want to take a little bit more time with this to make sure we've really examined publicly in a process that the public can be completely involved in as much as they want, whether there are any other alternatives that we haven't thought about, exactly what accommodations we could make for special ed needs, needs of splitting families, whether there are any voluntary solutions or other options on the table. So for that reason, I couldn't vote for this tonight.
Okay, thanks, John. Anybody else have anything?
I have a question to that point.
Yep.
So do we look at a best schools initiative process, or a best towns initiative process, or a historic properties preservation task force, or historic or an overlay district, exit 5? Do we institute a process like that so that more of the community can come out and participate to make this decision?
Are you asking me the question?
No, I'm asking everybody.
Okay. Well, my answer to that would be no, but let's just take a little bit more time. See if anything percolates up.
Anybody else?
Well, I think you're gonna have to redistrict at some point. This isn't gonna be the year.
And I don't disagree that at some point we're gonna have to redistrict. I guess it doesn't matter what I think at this point, but,
Like to know.
well, honestly, we're delaying the inevitable. I mean, we know we're gonna have to do this. And I'm the child of redistricting back in the 1960s. The federal government decided that kids should get bused away from their communities and go to different schools. So I was one of those kids that got bussed out and hated it, wasn't thrilled about it. This is not an easy decision for anybody up here to make, so you guys should know that. You know, I realize they're your kids, but they're our kids too. Everything that we do is, you know, for the benefit of this district and every one of the 5,700 kids that we've got in it. Unfortunately, you can't get everybody's top wishes onto the plate at the same time. So I would be in support of it. Right now, I'll be in support of it again when it comes up a year down the road or 2 years down the road. Whether it's this community or another community, I can't answer that question right now. I don't know. I suspect that the way that the market is, who knows? If houses keep getting cheaper, we may have a lot of folks moving in with other kids. And we could have people like me that are holding on to their houses for an extra 3 or 4 years because it's lost so much in its value that it's not worth it for me to move. And right now, I have no kids in the district. So when I move, I suspect somebody's going to buy the house with 2 or 3 kids, and that'll be Matthew Thornton at the time, or the middle school. So based on that, there's a motion on the table. I have a second. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
To redistrict, aye. All those opposed?
No.
The motion fails to carry. I want to, again, like Steve said, thank you guys so much for coming out. You have no idea how lonely it gets here every other Tuesday night without you. So now go home, watch it on reruns, come on down when you have something to say.
George, can we take
love to
a
have you.
5-minute break before we continue?
For what?
5-minute break.
Hold on for a second.
Yeah, the room's going to be.
The room's going to clear, so we'll come back at 9:50 on that clock, or 8:50, sorry. 8:50, 9:50, I'll give us an hour. Okay. This should be pretty quick, I would think. The rest of this should not be bad. Traffic ditch. Oh, okay. All I could say, I said to Ronnie, oh, he's stuck out there with the crappy weather.
There really had to be, because it's an issue. And we'll make adjustments, you know, we'll do it.
Okay,
That's no problem.
All right, I appreciate it.
we are back.
You know me.
4 minutes late. I'm sorry. Public comment. Mr. Clark.
Be 5 minutes late.
Sorry. Well, no, it's only 3 minutes.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Thank you. That was it, Reed. You had your shot.
Public comment was, I'm sure a lot of the parents who may or may not still be here are very happy that there's a school board where it can be 2 to 3 or 3 to 2 or otherwise. I just listened to this entire rendition, and I thought, when I was a kid, I spent 2 years in a Serbian school learning Serbian and English, and then the State Department said to my father, move to Austria. I spent 2.5 years in an Austrian school learning German and English. Then the State Department said, move to British Columbia, where I spent 4 years in a British school learning British and English. I did not, British and no English. And I had no board to go to, or my father had no board to go to express his opinions as to whether this shy little kid, which I was, would be hurt by that. And I can't speak to I had no siblings, so I can't speak to the parents who didn't have siblings and may have a different problem, or the parents who have medical problems. But I can say that switching from one school to another school in general does not hurt. I mean, look at me. I'm here, and it does not hurt to switch. So you killed the switching anyway, but I just thought I'd mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. As always, we appreciate your information.
If he'd only spoke sooner, he could have swayed the vote.
You never can tell. We have an announcement. Nate, I'm going to give you the honor of doing that.
Okay, I'm gonna have Jay do it. I'm gonna give Jay the honor.
This is what's known as passing the buck.
Right.
I'm happy to do it.
Now, wait, if there's any seniors there, they have a new school they have to go to next year? Is that,
Yeah, that's right.
You guys want to join us? There's 2 spots right there.
Kevin, you know it's like 38 degrees out, right? Okay, I was just checking.
They're all like that.
Well, it is certainly my privilege this evening to publicly recognize Mary Lucas, who is an English teacher at the high school and the advisor to the Lancer Spirit, our school newspaper. I also want to recognize some students here this evening, part of her staff, who have just been amazing. First, I want to cite Mary's award. She's being honored with the First Amendment Award, which is sponsored by the Naki Loeb School of Communications, and she will be one of the keynote speakers at the Center of New Hampshire on November 20th. This award dinner has featured keynote speakers that included Tim Russert, Senator John McCain, and this year's speaker is Howard Feynman, who is a Newsweek correspondent and NBC News analyst. I certainly will let you guys speak, but I want to just show the board, if I could, the evolution of our school newspaper. May 1980, we had an 8-page publication, which is very nice and covered several articles from guidance to jobs and the Arts Festival. Fast forward to 1999, we had a 12-page newspaper article. Again, still black and white, but a bit more on the cutting edge with some of the coverage that they've provided. And we move and fast forward to the turn of the century here, and under Ms. Lucas's leadership and an incredible staff that we have, last year's May edition, this is the May edition, 28-page full-page layout that's just sensational color. And this newspaper now, I believe, rivals a lot of college newspapers that we have out there. It's just sensational. They're moving to a 32-page layout, and
36 this month.
36, I apologize, 36-page layout. And that's due to the efforts of a dedicated staff and a very talented group of students, and we're just so proud of them. So I will certainly let them speak and be honored tonight.
Thanks, Jane. I don't know what else to say after that. Just we're excited to be here. I'm very proud of my staff. We've kind of evolved. The first year I
I had a 6-person editor staff, and then it was 8, and then 11, and now 13 this year. So it's kind of grown, and we've added sections and everything. And so I'm just very proud of them. We're here the last 2 nights. I wish I had the latest newspaper that we just did. We just are going to print today, this afternoon. And then, of course, as I was looking at the hard copy that I brought with me, I saw some other little nitpicky things. So I think I'm going to redo it tomorrow morning and then resend them the pages, because I'm just crazy that way. So, but that's it. I really want to honor my staff. They're just amazing. They treat this like a full-time job. They're just unbelievable kids. I have Katie Lannon, who was my editor-in-chief last year, just emailed me another article. She's on the front page of the Boston University publication, so she's pretty proud of that. So she was pretty excited about that. So it's really fun to see the kids, not just the experience they're getting in this program is really helping them in college, and so I'm really proud of them, and it's pretty exciting to be a part of revamping the whole paper and getting a little better each year with design and the writing. So that's it. I don't know if you guys want to say anything.
You guys have anything you want to say? You don't have to. Good if you did, but you don't have to.
Just been a really great opportunity, I think, just to kind of learn about like the actual career of journalism and how to apply it. It's definitely a good insight.
I just think there's some other people in the room that can give you some insight about being a journalist too. Maybe a completely different insight. I don't know.
Yes, we hear them tapping, so we know.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah.
Yeah, they'll be tapping till midnight.
Mary, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks so very much for everything that you do.
More comes to
Any
mind.
comments or questions from the board? Thanks again so much for coming
Thank
in.
you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you for
Good
waiting,
luck.
too.
Sure.
Keep up the
no
good work.
problem.
Kevin, it's 38 degrees out.
The girls have coats on.
I know. Yeah. Apparently, they're the smart ones.
May I make 2 quick announcements?
You
if I
can
could?
make
Just
2
continue to
quick announcements.
Plug the high school if you'll allow me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I didn't get a chance at the last meeting, but I wanted to just recognize this year we decided to honor a student of the month at each grade level, a teacher of the month, and a staff member of the month who really exemplify parts of our mission statement that we like to see. And if I may, September selections included James Giles, a freshman, Erica LeBlanc, sophomore, Lauren Bowles, junior, Matthew Charette, senior, Mr. Levergood, science teacher, and Ms. Connor is our staff member. So congratulations to them for being awarded the first Students of the Month. And we'll do it again in October. They had lunch with the principal, which was a treat for me to get to talk to them, and I enjoyed that. And we awarded them with certificates at our first pep rally.
Terrific.
And I also wanted to let the board know that, again, over 1.5 million students took the 2007 PSAT exam, and the 50,000 highest scores were honored with the distinction of semifinalist status for the top 16,000 and commended students for the remaining 34,000. If you recall, we extended congratulations to Caitlin McKenney for achieving the semifinalist status, which we're waiting to hear about her finalist status. But I also wanted to recognize Allison Casey, Lynn Delagrada, CJ Janito, Hadley Smith, and Tegan Swift, who are also commended students in that 34,000. So it's just amazing to me that we had 6 students honored in the top 50,000 highest scores in the country.
That's great. Congratulations to all of them. Jay, thanks. You're doing a great job.
You're
Thank you.
George, I think
Andy, did you have
Andy has a
something for
gift-
the
has a
announcements?
gift for you guys, too.
Just about a year ago, we came to the board and asked permission to accept a grant from the History Channel to produce
right.
a political library of New Hampshire, and Londonderry Middle School put together a political show on the primary process in New Hampshire. That process is finally finished. We delivered approximately 200 DVDs to the political library that will be distributed to all history teachers in the state of New Hampshire at the middle school level. The students and Bob Mack and Andy Brown, the teachers who facilitated this, will come to the board probably sometime in December to go through the process. It was very exciting. These young men and women had experiences that they probably could never imagine. I think one of the big things just happened recently with Senator Obama coming to Max Apples. They provided us with 11 front row seats for the kids who had been on the political library. And they got to meet him and shake his hand. And they have pretty much met every single candidate and have experiences that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. So I wanted to give the board each a copy of the DVD so you can watch it at your leisure. And the kids and their advisors will be back in sometime in December. It was just a great thing.
Terrific. Look forward to that. Ronnie?
Nate, have we played this on our TV 20, or can we?
21.
I'll let Andy.
We can. We haven't because we literally have just finished it. It's gone through a number of revisions, and then, Sue Ballard was kind enough to lend her eyes to it. I think, as I was saying to Nate, that's probably the highest praise we got, because what Sue said to us, it is definitely middle school kids about middle school. And that's exactly what we wanted to send out, because it was for a middle school classroom. And there are many people involved, from writing the curriculum that goes along with this to writing assessments so teachers can actually use this in their classroom on a daily basis.
And we can make arrangements to show it on Leo 21.
I think it
so-
would be good to
Yeah.
show some of the work that we've done
Absolutely.
in our school district.
Bet.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other questions, comments, announcements, consent?
Mr. Chairman, I move the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for consent agenda. Before we vote, I just want to point out the meetings. Next board meeting is Monday, November 3rd. Then we go back to Tuesday, November 18th, and the budget presentation on November 25th, which is a Tuesday also, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, right before
Is
Thanksgiving.
that right before Thanksgiving? Okay.
Give you a big turkey.
Thanks.
Question.
Better not be a turkey, Nate. Yes,
Am I
John?
remembering right that the 3rd is mostly dedicated to the strategic plan?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, yeah.
So for all those out there and want to come in, check out the strategic plan. It's posted on the website, Nate?
Yes, sir.
There you go.
It's in our
So
intimate conference.
be prepared. Oh, that's right, and Monday the 3rd will be in our old boardroom, as Steve points out, the more intimate setting. Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mary, and moving right along. The star CJ,
Hello. I only have a couple of things.
okay?
I passed out to the board what most seniors and their parents received last night regarding their senior trip. We had some representatives from Three Rivers actually come down and talk to the parents and the students to kind of explain to them what everything was about. I know they adapted their first page from what the Three Rivers have as their policies on the first page, and then on the third page has all the legal agreement, and the second page is the registration. They had a pretty good turnout.
I was gonna say, how was the turnout and what did the kids think, CJ?
I know the concern from last year was not, I think it was under 100 kids went on the senior trip to Six Flags. At first, there was mixed reviews to the whitewater rafting, but the senior class representatives seem confident that the turnout this year should be pretty good. My second thing was that Students Against Destructive Decisions, or commonly known as SAD, held their first official meeting after school today. It wasn't known if they were going to get back together, but they decided, they rallied enough people, which is a good thing. I know last year they did some really good awareness events, and they're doing something special next week for Red Ribbon Week,
Okay.
which could include some fun Halloween activities.
Oh, great. Terrific. Thanks, CJ. Is that it?
Yep.
Good, thanks. Stella? Hi.
Kneecaps were administered in the elementary schools this month. At middle school, the Twister students are volunteering at the soup kitchen and dairy. Under the supervision of Blair Bodette and Lynn Coveney. They began volunteering on October 7th and will continue volunteering on the first Thursday of each month. The students have said that they really are enjoying that. In addition, at the middle school, kneecaps are over. Attendance was very good. They would like to send a special thanks to all parents for supporting the testing and getting their children to school. The fun run, which was sponsored by the Wellness Committee and the Cross Country team, was a huge success. 200 kids and staff ran on Wednesday. Sixth grade teams have begun their Adventure curriculum. Students and staff alike felt the day went very well and are anxious to plan the next. Resiliency pre-tests were administered on Monday. This will give LMS some data to measure the impact of the curriculum and drive curriculum development for 7th grade. The science department is reviewing the kneecap data from the science test in the spring and discussing the curriculum scope and sequence relative to processing skills and inquiry. Math teachers are taking some time to observe grade level peers in order to begin collaborative lesson planning in November. Their plan is to improve the delivery of instruction by combining their instructional strengths. Red Ribbon Week is running this week, Monday through Friday. The students and staff dress in red and sign pledges to stand for a drug-free land. Each day, students are given a task to perform to show their support. The staff has held their first literacy book group. Each staff member used 2 pre-reading strategies while reading their own assignment and then utilized these strategies in their classroom. At the high school, the Drama Club is hosting its annual Haunted Woods on October 28th and through the 30th from 6 to 9. This is the only fundraiser of the year and helps to defray the cost of the musical and the drama. Admission is $3, $5 for adults and $15 for a family of 4. And new for this year, for little children, pre-K through 5th, there's a special venue within the Haunted Woods called the Goblin Garden. And there are games, crafts, and face painting. They're asking to please join them for a screaming good time.
Thanks.
That's it.
Ella. Thank you. Ben.
Actually did something this time. I went
Do
to,
something every time.
I attended the middle school state cross-country meet, and I just, for those of you who are familiar with the program, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but for those of you who are not, I believe it's just an outstanding program that's very well administered here in the school district. You know, it's important for us not only to educate our children academically, but also to pay attention to the holistic aspect of their bodies and their minds. And the cross-country program, at least I have a son that's in 7th grade, so that's my basis of experience, is really helped him from that aspect with discipline and whatever it is they tell those kids in terms of diet and training, they take it to heart. And it's one of those events where anybody can run, and more importantly, the focus is on improving yourself, and you're improving your personal best time through the entire season. And so it attracts a large number of students to the program, and everybody has the opportunity, one, to become healthier and more athletic, but also to feel the sense of accomplishment as they improve themselves and become better conditioned. And it's just an extremely well-run program, and I was very impressed and very happy that we were able to host it and do such a good job, and that so many kids walk away with a sense of fulfillment. And I think that's just a very important part of educating our youth. And I'm glad that the administration and the teachers and Larry Martin, and I apologize I don't remember all the coaches' names. I'm a bad parent, but I am glad that they've taken the time and interest in our children to make it such a success. So,
Thanks, Ben. Ronnie?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. First of all, I attended the South School building meeting last week, and the building project's on time, within budget, and we'll be opening the doors right after the Christmas holidays for the students, and we'll be moving into the classroom. So that's a very big accomplishment. The administration and the staff there is handling it beautifully. The portables are working out nice, and the portables will be taken down right after the first of the year, and they'll be out of there, so we'll be all set, and there'll be no more portables. Is there. So we'll be all set there. Tech Committee had a meeting on that, and they did some talking on the initiative process, and we had some discussions on that, and that's starting to be vetted out. But they had one of the ideas coming up is using a single computer with several terminals attached to it, and they're going to be doing a couple of examples of that to see if that can work in certain situations. It's not a fix-all, but they're working on that on some to reduce the inventory on the computers there. So that's something that they're working on. So it was a very interesting meeting on that. And the last thing, they came up with their book, Making the Most Out of Technology. I believe this is on the website. It gives them everything you wanted to know about technology in Londonderry School District.
That's pretty
So-
cool.
Very, very, very good. The staff did a super job on this. Sue Ballard and Sean, safety tips in it, how you do initiatives, how you do the budget process, everything's in here. So it's a super book for the staff and even the community. And one more thing, the program, the cross-country program, I was fortunate to have one of my sons, and if you have seen my sons, none of them really run except my last one. But what impressed me most about the middle school program was the coaches and the dedication. It wasn't to the first 7 or 8 runners that they were worried about. I've seen the coaches encouraging the last runner that was 5 minutes behind the pack, running with him, telling him he can make it, and seeing him cross that finish line. And it's a sense of accomplishment, and the coaches down there, and I've seen several of them down there, they've done a tremendous job on the boys and the girls' side. But it's not a case of winning, but it's that you're competing and you're completing the task, and they do a wonderful job down there. It is a great program.
Thanks, Ron. Steve?
Yeah, it's great, the whole cross-country thing. I mean, it's the fact that they let everyone participate. And there's a lot of students that wouldn't get a chance to get into sports if they didn't have that option. It was interesting, last week, Nate and I attended a economic development forum, the first of its kind here in Londonderry. The Planning and Economic Development Department held it at the Homestead, and they invited business leaders in the community, some political leaders, and the idea was to find out and listen and make sure that Londonderry is capable of broadening its tax base in the future. And I think that's extremely critical to the school district. I don't think that our job here is just to take care of the children and spend the money. I think our job is to help to develop that tax base and make sure that we grow it. It may be 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years out, but we need to appropriately develop the thousands of acres that we have here in order to fund our school district. Interestingly enough, the same day, the announcement came out from the Supreme Court in the state of New Hampshire. Contrary to press reports, Londonderry did not lose the case, and we just need to help understand that. As a matter of fact, NH Cafe and Londonderry and Merrimack and the 18 school districts have won every case that we've taken to the Superior Court and the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court asked us the question this year, as they asked us last year, and the question was, do we hold this case in-house, or do we remand it to Superior Court so you guys can work out the details, or do we drop the case? And we argued this year, the same as we did last year, that frankly, we have made progress. The state legislature has made progress. They have defined, they have costed out, but they still need to fund and they still need to hold themselves accountable. So they hit 2 of the court's mandates. So we asked the Supreme Court to hold it, continue to hold it in-house, and to make sure that they hold the state government accountable to fund and the adequate education and to hold themselves accountable. The court was split. It was a 3-2 vote. The vote was 3 to end the case as far as the Supreme Court is concerned without prejudice, which means we get to go back if for some reason the state legislature does not do the job of funding an adequate education. And what's interesting is the 2 justices that spoke out against this were very, very clear, and frankly, in my opinion, they were upset, if not angered, that the general court has taken well over a decade to deal with this. It appeared to me that, well, they said clearly that they have unfinished work in funding, providing, and ensuring a constitutionally adequate education for each public school student in our state, so that the long unfulfilled promise of our state constitution can finally be realized. In my simpler words, I mean, they said they need to go back and finish the job. And I don't think that the two justices that wanted to continue to hold this have much faith. I will have faith, and I hope that by June they they nail down the complete costing out, and they fund this adequate education. I had some citizens ask me, what does it mean to Londonderry? And I think it's a great question. It really means nothing. We're not going to lose any funding this year. No, we're not going to have less funding this year. That funding is guaranteed through the rest of the year. What we need to do is we need to keep a close eye on the court, and we need to hold them accountable. The good news is, since the case is now closed, we get to go ask for our money back. And I expect that the 18-member towns and communities will take that money back and put it into a war chest that it'll hold on hand to hold them accountable for their actions, so that they will finally fund an adequate education. And other than that, it was a boring week.
Thanks. John?
I was unable to attend the middle school PTA meeting. The schedule for that alternates between evenings and afternoons, and I was tied up in the afternoon. So Mary, if I can put you on the spot, is there anything that should be reported from that? Okay.
She's still present?
Mary slinks down behind her PC.
Okay. And
John, I just want to tell you that when Nate gave me this job, he told me, I'll give you the job, but you can never talk at any of the meetings. Every
wasn't on the
time
board
you
then,
put
though.
this to me. And who am I supposed to? He's my boss.
I didn't
Keep
hear
it up, Mary. Way to go. No complaints from me.
Nate, did anything happen at the middle school PTA meeting that we should know about?
I wasn't there. So I have no report, John, and Mary can't talk.
Okay.
But it is
All right.
a PTO, John, not a PTO.
And I'd just like to mention, well, actually, I'd like to welcome the audience just joining us right now at the conclusion of the LHS Memorial High School football game that was just replayed on WLLO and Channel 28. For the first time in known history, 2 students from the high school did the play-by-play on radio for this production, and they're intending to do additional games through the year as we continue to expand the program. So if you have been watching the school board all evening, rest assured that you can catch the football game again on Thursday at 7 o'clock on WLLO and Channel 28. And it was a good game.
Yeah, thank you, John. I know the radio kids are doing a great job, too, about getting that out. It's good to see that getting up and getting a little more use than we had been. Unfortunately, I did miss the tech meeting. It's just not as easy for me to get around as much. And I'll just echo what everybody said about the cross-country program at the middle school, but pretty much all of our co-curricular and extracurricular activities. Ben's absolutely right when he talks about this is not just classroom education that we try to deliver here. It's co-curricular, extracurricular, and we try to have something for everybody. It's no secret, and I've told John and everybody else that, if there's a couple kids out there that want some club, we'll figure out a way to make that happen. And it's important that we continue to do that to help those kids grow in their interests. So that's my editorial comment, and that'll be it. Nate, I know we're supposed to go to a school assessment action plan with Mark, and that's like a huge,
Would you like
it's extremely important to us. My fear is if we go to it now, it's going to not get the justice that it deserves.
That would be
It's
fine.
just too important to.
Well, what we can
So-
do is, our next meeting is what, November 3rd?
It's the 3rd to focus on the strategic plan. If
We
you
could-
think we can do it both, then.
Yep.
If not, this is important
Be
enough
fine.
that it
I agree.
it deserves some serious time, because I know there'll be some questions and some
Absolutely.
discussion that needs to happen around that.
Yeah.
So,
Andy, I'm sure, will be extremely disappointed, but he'll hold that disappointment. There you go. No, that'd be fine. I'd be happy to do that.
okay.
Mark holding the
Yeah, it's Mark holding his disappointment.
No, Mark wanted to do it. Andy was.
Oh, well.
Maybe we should do it.
Mark, is that okay with you? I'm just, my fear is it's just gonna go on, there's gonna be questions, and. Andy, we rolled the dice, you win.
Yeah, Mark, this is why we're here. I think I've read through this as tremendous documents, and I think it deserves its time, not at 9:30 at night.
Big green dice.
So the 4 people that are watching, 2 of them have gone to bed, so there's only 2 left.
Well, maybe all the folks that were here went home and turned it on.
No, yeah, you're absolutely
Yeah, they
correct.
were listening
you
to the
know,
football
and just
probably
one
right.
little editorial comment. The administration and staff spent a lot of time, the plans were generated from faculty, with input from the administration, and they worked on it, and Mark's guidance and the principal's guidance. And I agree with Ron, I think it's a great document, and what's more important is that it shows exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it, which I think is real important to get out. And I agree with you completely, we should spend the amount of time on it that's necessary. So that's
And in
fine.
this document, it's telling why we do assessments and what comes out of the assessments to make us learn from what the assessments are telling us. And that's what the community needs to know, why we're doing the assessment and what comes out of it.
Right. Thanks for indulging us, Mark. We appreciate it. Andy, come on up.
In your packets, I provided the board with a memo regarding the middle school returning to half teams and the potential elimination of our Exploring World Language program in grade 6. As we were going to be heading into the budget season, I want you to give the board a heads up on this because I know it's going to have a lot of discussion. I have spoken to the departments involved as well as the entire faculty, so this is no surprise to anybody out there who's on the teaching staff that may be listening. With the 09-010 school year, we're going to only welcome 397 fifth graders to LMS. That means in the last 5 years, we have an enrollment decrease of 141 students, which is basically the equivalent of an entire team. Thus, I am proposing the reduction of a half team at grades 6 and 7, but asking for those 2 teams to be merged. They would be approximately 60 7th graders and 50 6th graders, just because of where the numbers fall. The kids would still reside on the same floors. They would still do all their same grade level activities. None of that would change. The big change is for the adults, because I'd be asking teachers in their content area, because of highly qualified teacher status, to now teach 6th and 7th graders. After making the presentation to the faculty meeting, I've had a number of wonderful individuals who have already come forward and say they would be very interested. They find teaching the same thing all day long a little mundane, and are excited about this possibility.
Great.
The big piece is the Exploring World Language piece. It is a 6th grade related arts. It goes for 42 days. We are definitely in need of the reduction of a world language teacher. As you know, we have Spanish 1 and French 1 at grade 7 and 8. It's a year-long course that we do over 2 years. When I met with the department, we talked about where do we want that reduction to be, in that year-long course over the 2 years or the 40 days. So we went, and I provided in the back of your handout, to our benchmarks and our curriculum maps. And we saw that if you look at it, it's basically 21 days of French and 21 days of Spanish. And in that time, they're covering the culture, basic vocabulary, numbers from 1 to 31, basic commands, you know, stand, sit, close the door, open the door, those type of things. Those topics repeat themselves at grade 7, and they repeat themselves at grade 8. So that's how we arrived at looking at Exploring World Language, and why we're proposing the elimination there. We are concerned that that could affect the number of kids more likely to sign up for French, because a lot of kids don't get exposed to French, and that course gives them an idea of that. We are seeing our French numbers go down. The department did have an interesting proposal, which was to do some sort of summer enrichment like we presently do with the accelerated math, where they would basically offer 20 days of French and 20 days of Spanish. Looking at the budget, we believe we can already incorporate that into what is presently funded for the summer enrichment activities. So I don't think there'd be a big budget impact there at all. One of the problems and one of the proposals I'm making to Nate is that this elimination of that teacher is not really an elimination as much as a swap. And the reason for that swap is we would have to, if we don't make a swap, look at going back to trimesters at grade 6 and quarters at grade 7. It's a very difficult thing to do scheduling-wise. It can be done, because I know we are in a tight budget, but I would have to come back and present some things to the board so you know exactly how a sixth grader's schedule might not be identical to a peer on another team. So there is a potential to do that, but you need more information so you can clearly understand that, and that's in process now. If we are fortunate enough to have a swap, we would be proposing to move our FACS course, which is at grade 7, which is basically home economics as we knew it when we went through school, and they focus on sewing and those skills, into grade 6. And at grade 7, we would be proposing to add a literacy/writing class for 40-something days. If you look at our kneecap scores over the last couple of years, we are improving in writing, but we definitely need a focus on that area. We feel grade 7 would be an appropriate time because at the completion of the year, all children would have gone through the program, and kneecap writing is in October. So we can guarantee that every student would have had the writing component. We are presently also looking to extend our new language arts program that we started in grade 6 into grade 7. And those extra 40 days working with the language arts teachers would be to develop the scope and sequence where we maximize that program. So certain parts would take place in this writing and literacy, certain parts would take place in the language arts class. We believe that this proposal is going to continue with good student-teacher ratios. We believe we can still offer our children the same experience that we've been doing. We believe that we have looked at all the documentation and data that warrants this coming forward to the board at this time, especially as we approach this budget season. I do want to, again, remind you that the faculty is well aware of this. We spent our last faculty meeting going through it step by step. We have had meetings with any potential staff members who may be affected. And at this point, I really just wanted to provide the information to the board. I wasn't looking for any sort of feedback. I just didn't want to make the first presentation during the budget, and it was a surprise. Okay? I will entertain any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Andy. Any questions? John?
Andy, could you articulate what it means to go to a half a team? You said the impact would be primarily on the adults. Does that mean fewer teachers, or how does that work?
What we would do is we would have still your math, science, English, and history, special ed teacher, and a paraprofessional, and they would form a merged team of 6th and 7th grade. So the students using the back stairwell, because it would be very limited travel, would go up and down that one flight of stairs. But in terms of the Resiliency for Life program that we placed there, the Ed Adventure program that replaced Brown Center, any type of activities like that, they would do those with their grade level.
Okay. I guess the nugget of the question is, does that mean fewer teachers in the middle school?
By 6 bodies.
I'm sorry?
By 6 people.
Okay, thank you.
So there'd be 6 adults that would be eliminated.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Andy?
Yeah, one quick, Andy, is it 6 or a net of 5 if you go with the literacy?
If the board approves the swap, it would be a net of 5. If the board, you know, and again, I will bring you other data so you know exactly what I'm talking about, where the scheduling conflicts comes in. And at that point, if you're comfortable with a 6th grader not getting the exact same experience, because right now every 6th grader gets the exact same experience, that would be very difficult to do in this situation. So that's why I'm proposing, for 2 reasons. One, I'm proposing the language arts addition because it helps with scheduling, but more importantly, it gives us an opportunity to address a curriculum weakness that we have seen in Iowa and kneecap data in a very intense 42-day session.
Steve?
I think this is important because the little soundbite that just got picked up, you said that 6 positions would be eliminated. And Nate then said a net of 5.
Right. If the board allowed the swap, what would happen is one teacher at the middle school would move from their present teaching assignment into this literacy/writing. So I would only be eliminating 5 positions, but I wouldn't be adding any. So you'd have 5 full-time faculty and 1 paraprofessional, as opposed to 6 full-time faculty and 1 paraprofessional. And I mean, if you look at the number 141, it's appropriate, because that is probably the largest team we ever had. I think it was approaching 135 to 140 when we were at a peak enrollment of about 1,500 kids. You combine this with the elimination of the PE teacher last year, a full-time secretary, and a .4 world language, and I think we have done a fair job of, when the students are there, increasing the budget, and when the students are not there, reducing the budget.
Anything else? Andy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to go into non-public session under RSA 91A3, Section 2, A through F.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please. Aye, George Herman. Thank you. If you're in this room, you were on the air.